All right, crypto market updates. Looking at the Bitcoin charts on the smaller time frame, you can see that we had a little bit of a correction, pulled back, seemed to have bounced at this level. And if you look at it on the larger time frame, we can see that it hit the fib extension level on the larger trend, 1.618, before it hit resistance. So this is something I was showing last week. So it hit 1.618 on the nose. And so I was talking about the possibility that if we break this $1,900 to $2,000 area, things could start to hit a point of accelerated momentum and go parabolic, hitting 3,000 likely in a short period of time, right? So that's the most bullish possibility. And even though we've had a correction, if it sticks at these levels, then the chances of it moving up and breaking out are fairly high. On the flip side, let's say this was the top and then we had a major correction similar to what we've had here, thus keeping the larger trend healthier, then we do have some confluence. If I were to do a fib retracement from the capitulation candle all the way down here, before this is where the bull trend started, then we do have some confluence right around here between the extension and the retracement. And this would create a perfect prior resistance turn support type of scenario, right? Because we had resistance here and so on and so forth. So either way, I mean, even if it did have a huge correction, then this could be a good dip buy area for a bounce play. But I'm still kind of leaning towards the breakout and go parabolic just because it looks parabolic on the larger time frame, but this would also be an area of interest as well for Bitcoin, right? All right, so other markets, looking at XRP, and obviously anything in between can also happen. I mean, if we look at it, some other trend lines as well that we could look at. One sec. You know, one could draw an immediate trend line if we were to get a pullback for potential bounce off of this level, which would line up with this fib retracement area right here. That's if we had a bigger pullback, but it's possible we'll just kind of consolidate. Similar, I see kind of some similarities between this and this. So it's possible we could consolidate and then break out, and this just being a larger consolidation pattern. So let's see what happens with Bitcoin. Either way, a lot of the altcoins seem to be just kind of in a tighter range, although Ripple looks to be on the verge of making another breakout. So if one were to actually look for a breakout trade, and you have to also take in account that there's considerable downside risk on a breakout trade like this because the price has already gone up, 2,000%, right? So it's completely parabolic from these levels, but it's already up over 2,000%. But that said, there's nothing saying that it can't make a third leg up. It looks like it could be pushing for a third leg up, right? These markets have produced really, really high moves. So if one were to catch a breakout trade, basically the way to do it, and you've got this ascending triangle, the way to do it is you have to have your set risk, right? You need to have a stop order, either mental or hard stop, and you buy, what you do is you buy above the breakout point. I'm may or may not do this. I don't know if I'll actually catch this breakout because the price is so high, but if I were to do like a fib extension, I kind of like trading markets that are a lot cheaper, but for a specific trade, breakout trade, you know, there could you could get like 40% and maybe set a stop, you know, 10% or something like that. Or but you have to be mindful of the considerable risk that's associated with that, right? And obviously, like a breakdown of this trend line would likely spell a potential reversal too. So that's another thing to look at, and that could be good for stuff like short entries and stuff like that. So that's Ripple. Breakout trades when the price is a lot higher, you just have to have exit targets, you know, generally tighter targets, because the higher the price goes, generally the smaller the percentage gains are, as well as having stops, you know, risk management, exit strategy type of thing. Looking at some of the markets that I'm in right now, so I'm not in this market right now, but looking at the markets that I'm in right now, I actually I bought some more mid caps. WeTrust is one of them. This is kind of like a decentralized insurance platform type of thing that they want to build using Ethereum. The way I see it is that the price is really cheap. It's really low. It's on Bittrex. It's an Ethereum-based token. CoinMarketCap, it's, you know, mid capitalization. You know, it's somewhere in the 50s or potentially 60s. So, you know, you had accumulation here, and we're getting kind of like a reaccumulation, but the price is really, really cheap. Usually these are kind of just like patience plays, just like Edgeless. It's very, very similar. I just buy them cheap and I'm patient and I just wait till there's more activity that happens. You know, these are new projects, so they'll have new development releases as well as news events, and usually that can trigger some bullishness, as well as the fact that any one of these tokens or coins could get listed on Poloniex, and that usually brings in some price gains as well. So Edgeless, again, looks like it's basically just in an accumulation phase, right? So I have some of this. I bought some ARK the other day. This basically looks like a kind of like a reaccumulation zone between the 78 and 61%. So possible we could end up seeing a move. This is another mid cap. Have some Loon. This is Lunar. This one's really, really cheap. It's in the, I don't even think it's in the top 100 for market capitalization. Another new ETH-based token project. See, I'd much rather buy markets that are a lot cheap and wait for them to gain some traction than buy markets that are very, very popular pre-market and end up in these pre-market bubbles and having ridiculous prices on price discovery, right? So there's Loon. I also have some DataBits. Still very similar. So there's not a lot of TA on these markets because they're so new, right? I started buying DataBits when it was ramping up here. So this is just kind of doing some sideways consolidation as well. I'll just give you a couple of examples of other markets that I bought really, really cheap. Now this was on Poloniex, so it didn't take long for this one to take off, but I bought this market all the way down here, right? So when I sent out that trade alert and I said I was selling half, it was from a position down here. And so just selling that half not only took out all my risk capital, but it also took it out a bunch of profit as well, right? Because it had increased close to 800%. And dollar wise, that's even higher, right? And so the rest I can just hold comfortably as an investment because I had made that decision to buy some cheap Golem down here. So I didn't really have to stress about any of these other movements. So that can be one of the benefits of buying something cheap, right? UBQ is another market that I bought really cheap. When it first kind of hit the exchange, I looked at it and I'd bought some right around here. It was going sideways, a little bit flat, and then it just started to ramp up, right? So here's an example of a market that didn't get listed on Poloniex that still made some profit on BTRAX, regardless of getting listed on Poloniex, right? So, I mean, it basically from that point, it increased like 600%. And I basically, I sold a lot of it and through here, so. Time is another market that got in cheap on, and I've had to wait. So this was kind of like the last slow cooker that I was in, right? And bought down here, participated in the ICO, probably was like 0.01 area. Then it dropped, so I cost averaged down to accumulate. This is between a $6 and $7 range, and then finally it kind of just broke out, and now prior resistance has turned support. So, you know, I tripled my money dollar-wise on that, but Bitcoin-wise, I'm still waiting for a bigger push and for it to grow in market capitalization. So I'm just holding for now. So that's time. And those are pretty much the markets that I'm in right now. They're kind of patience plays. See, a lot of the markets that are on Poloniex, they're up ridiculous prices, you know, plus 1,000% on many of these markets. So I'm just looking for the next round of potential markets to move up instead of chasing prices that are already up, you know, over 1,000%. I'm looking to accumulate new cheap things and waiting for those to grow, right? So we get another cycle. So that's basically it for this market update. I'll see you in the next. Cheers.